He lived in a busy city where the noise never seemed to stop. Cars honked constantly, people rushed by in a blur, and the lights from the shops and billboards never dimmed. He worked long hours at a job that demanded more than it gave back. Every morning he woke up before the sun, already feeling tired, and every night he returned home feeling empty and restless. Sleep was difficult. He would lie in bed staring at the ceiling, the weight of thoughts pressing down, while the quiet hum of the city outside seemed louder than ever. Stress had become a constant companion, and peace felt like a distant memory. One day, after a particularly exhausting week, he walked past a small cafe tucked between two tall buildings. The smell of fresh coffee drew him inside, and he found a seat by the window. As he sipped his drink, he noticed the soft sounds floating through the cafe speakers. It was music he did not immediately recognize. There was no heavy beat, no electronic pulse, just gentle notes flowing like water over stones. It captured his attention without demanding it, and slowly he felt a calm he hadn't felt in months. The music wrapped around him like a warm blanket, softening the tension in his shoulders and loosening the tight grip of his thoughts. Curious, he asked the barista about the music. The barista smiled and said it was classical music, a selection of pieces known for relaxation. He had heard the term before, but it had always sounded formal and distant. Something people played in grand halls or during old movies. He never imagined it could touch someone in such a simple, immediate way. That day he left the cafe feeling lighter. He didn't buy much, just a small cup of coffee, but the feeling stayed with him. There was a quiet energy, a sense of something timeless, and he wanted to understand it better at home. Could not stop thinking about the music. He found himself searching online for the pieces, listening to recordings of piano sonatas and symphonies, trying to catch the same feeling he experienced at the cafe. Some days, he would sit in his small living room, the city buzzing outside his windows, and play one of the pieces softly. He noticed that even in the chaos outside, he could find small pockets of calm. The music gave him something to hold on to, something that belonged entirely to him. He discovered the works of composers whose names he had only vaguely known: Beethoven, Mozart, Chopin, Debussy. Each had a different voice, a different way of speaking through notes and rhythms. Beethoven's pieces felt powerful yet tender, as if someone were speaking to him directly about strength and hope. Mozart had a playful clarity, a lightness that lifted his spirits in subtle ways. Chopin's piano pieces felt like conversations he had never had with anyone, intimate and reflective. Debussy seemed to capture colors and images in sound, a gentle painting of feelings he didn't have words for. Listening to each piece, he felt layers of emotion unfolding, some bringing tears, others quiet smiles. The music began to influence his daily life. On mornings when the city felt too loud and the world too heavy, he would play a short piece while making his breakfast. The gentle notes helped him move through the day with less tension, less hurriedness. On particularly stressful nights, he would sit on the edge of his bed and listen, letting the music carry away the worries that crowded his mind. He noticed his breathing slowing, his muscles relaxing, and a sense of being grounded returning after months of tension. He did not have to do anything but listen, yet he felt as if he were healing in small, invisible ways. As days turned into weeks, he began to look forward to these moments. The music was no longer just a background sound, but a companion. Sometimes he closed his eyes and allowed himself to imagine being in the grand concert halls where these pieces were first played, imagining the composers themselves pouring their emotions into the music. He thought about the people who had listened to these pieces over the centuries, each finding their own comfort in reflection. There was something extraordinary in the way a few carefully arranged notes could reach across time and space, connecting lives he would never know to his own. He started keeping a small notebook by his armchair. Each time he listened, he would write down the feelings and images the music brought. Some pieces made him think of childhood memories, long-forgotten walks in the park, quiet evenings reading by the window. Others stirred ambitions and dreams he had set aside, reminding him of what mattered beyond deadlines and meetings. Through this practice, he realized that the music was teaching him to notice himself again, to remember that life had moments of beauty even when it felt overwhelming. It was a gentle reminder that he was allowed to pause, to breathe, to simply exist without constant pressure. One weekend, he decided to visit a local library that had a music section. He spent hours listening to recordings, reading notes about the pieces, and learning about the history behind the compositions. He learned that some were written during times of personal struggle for the composers, others to celebrate life and joy. Knowing these stories made the listening experience even richer. He felt a deep connection not just to the music, but to the people who had created it, their humanity reaching out to his own. His friends began noticing changes too. He was calmer on calls, less irritable, more present in conversations. When asked what had changed, he would laugh softly and say it was something as simple as listening to music. Some friends tried it, and he could see their moods shift after a while, small smiles appearing when they least expected it. It gave him a sense of quiet satisfaction, knowing that something as simple as a melody could ripple outward and touch other lives, even at work. He found ways to bring the music into his day without disturbing others. He would listen through small earphones during lunch breaks or while walking between meetings. The rush of the city, the pressure of deadlines, the endless notifications, all of it seemed less daunting when carried. Alongside the gentle guidance of a piano or a string quartet, he noticed that he was more focused, less reactive, and able to approach problems with a calm mind. The music had become a tool for resilience, a secret companion helping him navigate challenges he had once felt helpless against. There were evenings when he would sit quietly with a cup of tea, letting one long piece play from start to finish. He did not rush, did not try to multitask. For the first time in a long while, he gave himself permission to just be. The music carried him into a state where time felt irrelevant, where worries faded into the background, and he could simply breathe and feel. Sometimes he imagined walking through a forest or sitting by a calm lake, the music painting these scenes in his mind. It was an escape, but not from reality, rather. It was a gentle reshaping of how he experienced it. He began to notice the subtler changes in his life. He was sleeping deeper, waking, feeling rested, and carrying a steadiness in his movements and voice. Stress was still there, as it always would be, but it no longer overwhelmed him. He had discovered a way to find pockets of peace, even amidst the chaos. This discovery, simple yet profound, became a cornerstone of his daily life. The city was still loud, the work still demanding, but there was now a constant thread of calm woven into each day. And it was all sparked by music he had once overlooked. Through these moments, he realized that classical music was not just about technique, history, or fame. It was about human connection, emotion, and understanding. Each note was a message, each composition a conversation. The music allowed him to feel deeply, to reflect, and to heal. It reminded him that in a world of constant noise, there could still be quiet. There could still be beauty, and there could still be a sense of inner peace that was entirely his own. In that discovery, his life began to change, one note at a time. He had now moved beyond casual listening and was diving deeper into the world of classical music. It had become a deliberate part of his daily routine. Each morning, before starting his work, he would select a piece to accompany the quiet moments of preparing breakfast and reading the news. The music no longer floated in the background. It guided his mornings, setting the tone for how he wanted to feel. Some days, it was a light and playful piece, making him smile as he poured coffee. Other days, it was a slow, reflective composition that encouraged introspection and calm before the day began. He discovered that each composer had a different way of communicating, almost like different friends sharing their wisdom and emotion. Beethoven's pieces had a strength that seemed to echo through the centuries, giving him courage to face challenges. Mozart offered a sense of balance and clarity, helping him to focus and approach his tasks with a steady mind. Chopin's music felt deeply personal, like reading someone's diary filled with emotions that were universal yet intimate. Debussy painted vivid images in his mind, taking him to imagined landscapes where he could walk freely, breathe deeply, and feel lighter. Through these experiences, he realized that music could be a companion, a guide, and a healer. During this time, he began exploring longer works, pieces that lasted 20 minutes or more, where he could lose himself entirely. He would set aside an hour on weekends, turning off his phone, drawing the curtains, and letting the music fill the room. He discovered that in these moments, time felt suspended. There were no emails, no traffic, no responsibilities, just him and the sound of the instruments. The longer he listened, the more he could feel the structure of the compositions unfolding. The way themes would appear, transform, and return, creating a journey that mirrored life itself. He found comfort in this rhythm and predictability, in the gentle rise and fall of melodies, and the way tension would resolve into peace. He started learning the stories behind the compositions. Reading about the times and places in which the music was created, he learned that some pieces were written in moments of personal hardship, while others celebrated joy and triumph. These stories added depth to his listening experience. Knowing that composers had poured their struggles, hopes, and dreams into their work made the music feel alive, more human. He could sense the emotions hidden between the notes and began to relate them to his own life, finding solace and encouragement in ways he hadn't expected. As he listened, he noticed subtle changes within himself. He became more patient and attentive, not only with the music, but in his daily life. Conversations with colleagues felt less rushed, and he was able to listen more deeply to others. Simple moments like walking down the street or waiting for a bus became more enjoyable when accompanied by music. He began to notice details he had overlooked before: the pattern of sunlight on the pavement, the rhythm of his own footsteps, the sound of birds in the city. Music had taught him to slow down, to pay attention, to find meaning in small moments. Sometimes, the music would evoke memories long buried. A piano sonata might remind him of afternoons spent reading in his childhood home. A gentle string quartet could bring back the feeling of walking through a quiet park at dusk. These memories were not just nostalgic, they were comforting. He realized that classical music had a way of connecting the past and present, helping him to remember who he was and who he wanted to be. It offered a sense of continuity and stability, a reminder that life, despite its chaos, had moments of grace. He also began experimenting with different listening environments. Sometimes he would sit in his living room with a cup of tea, letting the music surround him. Other times, he would take long walks through the city, headphones in place, and let the melodies intertwine with the sounds of the streets. He found that music could transform any environment, turning ordinary moments into experiences of quiet beauty. Even the most crowded, noisy places seemed less overwhelming when accompanied by a piece that resonated with his mood. Through these practices, he developed a sense of discipline and intention in his listening. He no longer played music mindlessly. He approached it with curiosity and respect, taking the time to notice every detail, the rise and fall of a melody, the way instruments conversed, the pauses that held meaning between the notes. Listening became a form of meditation, a way to focus and center himself. He noticed that these sessions left him feeling refreshed, calmer, and more in tune with his own thoughts and emotions. He began sharing his experiences with close friends, recommending pieces and explaining how the music affected him. Some friends were skeptical at first, but when they tried it, they often returned with stories of their own feelings of calm and reflection. He found joy in these conversations, discovering that music could be a bridge between people, creating shared moments of understanding without words. It was a reminder that the beauty he found in music was universal, capable of touching anyone who would listen. As he delved deeper, he also explored the technical aspects of the music. He learned about different instruments, how composers combined sounds to evoke emotion, and how tempo and dynamics could change the entire feel of a piece. Understanding these details made him appreciate the craftsmanship and intelligence behind the compositions. It was like discovering a hidden layer to a world he thought he already knew. This deeper awareness enriched his listening experience, turning it into an adventure of discovery with every new piece. His weekends became dedicated to exploring classical music more fully. He would set up a small listening area, dim the lights, and let himself be immersed. Sometimes he would close his eyes and imagine the composer at work, the fingers on the piano keys, the movements of the conductor's hands, the energy of a live audience. These mental images added another dimension to the music, making it feel immediate and alive. The experience became almost spiritual in its quiet intensity, offering a reprieve from the constant demands of the outside world. He noticed that his creativity in other areas of life was also awakening. He began journaling more thoughtfully, sketching ideas that came to mind, and even trying his hand at small compositions on the piano. Music had opened a door to self-expression, allowing him to explore emotions and ideas that had been buried under years of routine and stress. The sense of accomplishment and personal growth he felt was deeply satisfying, reinforcing the value of his new habit. Over time, he began to notice how the music influenced his interactions with the world. He became more patient with traffic, more attentive to colleagues, and more compassionate toward strangers. The sense of calm he cultivated through music spilled over into his behavior, shaping the way he experienced daily life. It was as if the music had taught him not just to relax, but to live with intention and awareness. Each note reminded him to slow down, to listen, to feel. He also discovered that different times of the day suited different types of music. Morning pieces helped him wake up gently. Afternoon compositions offered focus and clarity, and evening music encouraged reflection and winding down. By matching the music to his rhythm of life, he found a natural flow that made even the busiest days feel manageable. Music had become a tool for self-care, simple but profound way to maintain balance and well-being. His immersion in classical music also led him to attend live performances. He found a small concert hall where local musicians played regularly. Sitting in the audience, he felt the vibrations of the instruments in a way recordings could never replicate. The communal experience of listening, sharing the space with others who were also moved by the music, added a new layer of appreciation. He realized that music was not just a private experience, but a shared human language that could connect people across generations and cultures. Through all of these experiences, he grew more attuned to the subtleties of life. He began to notice the beauty in routine moments, a morning coffee, a quiet street, the changing light of day. Music had taught him to be present, to savor each moment, and to find joy in simplicity. It was a lesson that extended far beyond the notes and rhythms, shaping his perspective and transforming the way he approached life. By the end of this period, he was no longer just a casual listener. Classical music had become an integral part of who he was, a guiding presence that offered comfort, insight, and joy. He felt a growing sense of gratitude for the composers who had created these timeless works and for the chance to experience them in a world that often felt overwhelming. Music had become more than a hobby, was a lifeline, a source of peace, and a companion through every twist and turn of life. He knew that this was only the beginning, and he looked forward to discovering even more piece by piece, note by note. As time passed, the music became more than a hobby. It began to reshape how he experienced life. He noticed that the calm he felt during listening sessions started spilling into everyday moments. He walked more slowly on crowded streets, noticing the patterns of light and shadow, the rhythm of footsteps, the sound of distant conversations. Life's noise, which had once felt overwhelming, now seemed more like a backdrop, something to observe rather than be consumed by. The music had taught him to step back, to see the larger picture, and to find balance amidst chaos. He found himself applying the lessons from music to challenges at work. Projects that had once felt insurmountable now seemed manageable. He approached problems with patience and a clear mind, able to weigh options without rushing. Colleagues noticed a difference in him, commenting on how calm and focused he had become. Even small interactions, like answering emails or participating in meetings, felt more thoughtful and measured. Music had given him a new sense of composure, a tool to handle stress without losing himself in it. One evening, after a particularly tense day, he sat in his favorite chair and put on a long, slow piano piece. As the notes began to unfold, he felt the weight of the day lift from his shoulders. He closed his eyes and allowed himself to sink fully into the sound, noticing the subtle shifts in tone, the delicate pauses, the way each phrase seemed to breathe. It was a form of meditation, a release from the tension he had carried all day. By the time the piece ended, he felt renewed, ready to face life with a steadier heart. The music also helped him process emotions he had long ignored. Some pieces stirred sadness, memories of losses or disappointments he had tucked away. Others brought joy and laughter, reminding him of moments of happiness and connection. He allowed himself to feel fully, understanding that emotions were not obstacles to be avoided, but part of the human experience. Music became a safe space for reflection, a way to explore feelings without judgment. It was a private conversation with himself. Guided by melodies that seemed to understand every nuance, he began experimenting with listening at different times of the day, discovering how each period affected his perception of the music. Morning compositions felt energizing, a gentle push into the day. Afternoon pieces helped him focus and remain calm amidst the demands of work. Evening music became a time of reflection, allowing him to review the day and prepare for rest. The music became a companion that moved with him through the rhythm of life, adjusting its mood to match or soothe his own. Weekends were especially transformative. He would dedicate hours to listening, setting up a small corner in his living room with soft lighting and a comfortable chair. He learned to resist the temptation to multitask, choosing instead to give his full attention to the music. He noticed that these sessions left him feeling lighter and more connected to himself. Even after returning to daily responsibilities, the calm and clarity lingered, influencing his decisions and interactions. It was a subtle, profound shift that reshaped the way he navigated life. He also began to explore the social dimension of music. Occasionally, he invited a few friends to listen with him, sharing pieces that had particularly moved him. These sessions were quiet and reflective, yet deeply bonding. Without words, they shared a mutual understanding of the emotions stirred by the music. He realized that classical music could create connections without conversation, a shared human experience that transcended language. It was a reminder that even solitary practices could ripple outward, touching others in meaningful ways. As he continued to explore, he discovered the therapeutic qualities of music. Certain pieces helped him release tension stored in his body, others brought clarity to his mind. He realized that music could be a form of self-care, a tool for maintaining mental and emotional health. He experimented with pairing music with breathing exercises, finding that inhaling and exhaling in rhythm with the melody amplified the calming effect. Over time, he noticed measurable changes: better sleep, more focused days, and a deeper sense of overall well-being. He became more aware of the subtle nuances in each composition, the way a single note could shift the mood of a piece, the interplay of instruments creating texture and depth, the rise and fall of dynamics shaping emotion. It was like discovering a hidden language. He felt a deep respect for the composers, understanding the patience, insight, and sensitivity required to create such work. The music was no longer just sound. It was conversation, expression, and wisdom conveyed through time. Sometimes, he would let the music guide him on imaginative journeys. A flowing piano sonata might take him through imagined landscapes of rolling hills, rivers, and forests. A string quartet could evoke a quiet city street at night, where every footstep and distant murmur felt alive with meaning. These mental excursions were more than daydreams. They were restorative experiences, allowing him to step outside the pressures of daily life and immerse himself in beauty and contemplation. He also noticed the subtle shifts in his perspective on time. Music taught him to inhabit moments fully, to appreciate the unfolding of events rather than rushing through them. He began to value the pauses, the silences, and the transitions in life. Much like the rests and shifts in music that create contrast and depth, it was a lesson in patience and attentiveness, and it transformed mundane tasks into opportunities for mindfulness. Even interactions with strangers felt different. He became more present, listening with intent and responding thoughtfully. Conversations felt richer, more meaningful, because he had learned to engage deeply rather than superficially. Music had trained him to recognize subtle shifts in tone and emotion, to appreciate nuance, and to respond with empathy. It was as if the lessons from the compositions extended beyond sound, Influencing the way he navigated the world around him, he continued to explore different composers and styles, discovering new pieces that resonated with him. Each brought a unique voice, a different approach to emotion and structure. He began to see the diversity within classical music, understanding that there was a piece for every mood, every situation, and every stage of life. This realization made his listening practice dynamic and evolving. It's always offering something new to discover and experience. Live performances became an important part of his journey. He attended concerts, sitting among audiences who were equally absorbed in the music, the vibrations of the instruments, the presence of the performers, and the shared silence of listeners created an experience that recordings could not replicate. He felt connected not only to the music but to the collective human experience of listening, a reminder that art was a bridge across time and space. Linking people through emotion and understanding, he also began to reflect on the personal growth experienced through music. Patience, presence, empathy, and breathings. These qualities had strengthened as he engaged with compositions deeply and consistently. Music had become a teacher, offering lessons in observation, reflection, and emotional intelligence. He recognized that these lessons extended far beyond listening, influencing every aspect of his life and interactions. As he looked back, he realized how much had changed since his first encounter with classical music in that small cafe. What had started as curiosity had grown into a profound practice of self-discovery and healing. Music had become a constant companion, guiding him through challenges, inspiring reflection, offering moments of pure joy. It was a reminder that, even in a world of noise and haste, there were spaces for stillness, connection, and beauty. He understood that this journey was ongoing. There were always new pieces to explore, deeper nuances to notice, and richer emotional experiences to uncover. Music had opened doors to new ways of seeing, feeling, and being, and he was eager to continue walking through them. Each day offered an opportunity to listen, reflect, and grow, one note at a time. The transformative power of classical music had become a central part of his life. Shaping his present and inspiring his future, he had come to see music as more than just personal enjoyment. It had become something he wanted to share with others. He remembered the quiet joy and calm he had discovered and felt a desire to offer that same experience to friends and family. At first, it was small. He recommended a few favorite pieces during casual conversations, describing how they had helped him feel more grounded. Some friends were curious, some skeptical, but a few decided to listen. Their feedback surprised him. They found the music comforting, refreshing, and even inspiring. The realization that something so simple could touch others deeply filled him with satisfaction and courage. He began inviting a few friends to listen with him in his home. He created a small listening corner with soft lighting and comfortable chairs, letting the music flow uninterrupted. These gatherings were quiet and reflective, but they were also deeply bonding. Without the need for words, they shared a common experience, each person moved in their own way by the music. Conversations would naturally arise afterward about feelings, memories, and observations, often leading to laughter or thoughtful silence. Music had become a medium for connection, allowing them to understand each other in a subtle, emotional way. He also introduced music into family routines. Sunday afternoons became times when a piece of music played while everyone went about their activities. Children and adults alike began to notice the calming effect. Some would sit quietly, listening with rapt attention, while others moved about, yet the atmosphere of peace and reflection remained. Even simple chores became more enjoyable when accompanied by music, transforming ordinary moments into shared experiences of calm and presence. He saw firsthand how music could influence the mood of a household, gently guiding everyone toward harmony and patience. He began sharing recommendations more intentionally, creating small playlists for friends and family, each tailored to different moods and purposes. Some were for relaxation after a long day, others for focus during work or study, and some for joyful moments. He watched with quiet joy as people discovered the same calm he had found, expressing gratitude and surprise at how powerful something as simple as a melody could be. The ripple effect of his own discovery grew. And he realized that music had the ability to create community and shared understanding, in addition to personal sharing. He sought out opportunities to bring music into public spaces. He volunteered at a local community center, suggesting that classical music be played during quiet afternoons for visitors. The response was immediate and positive. People lingered longer, spoke softer, and seemed more at ease. He realized that the music had an almost magical quality, capable of shifting energy in a room, softening tension, and inviting calm. The impact was subtle but profound, and it reinforced his belief in the universal value of these timeless masterpieces. He also discovered that teaching others to listen deeply was an enriching experience. He would guide friends and family to focus not just on the melody, but on the interplay of instruments, the pauses, the dynamics, and the subtle emotions conveyed. As they began to notice the nuances he described, he found that their engagement and appreciation grew. The act of sharing knowledge about music strengthened his own understanding, and he felt a sense of fulfillment in helping others unlock the beauty that had so profoundly affected his life. These experiences led him to appreciate music as a form of storytelling. Every piece had a narrative, sometimes explicit, sometimes hidden, and sharing these stories made listening more engaging. Friends and family would discuss the feelings evoked, the images that came to mind, and the emotions stirred. Music became a starting point for reflection and conversation, deepening relationships and fostering empathy. It was as if the melodies themselves had the power to open hearts and minds, revealing layers of emotion that words alone could not convey. He also explored opportunities to introduce music to people who might not have access to it otherwise. He collaborated with local libraries and small organizations to create listening sessions, providing recordings and small introductions to classical music. The response was heartwarming. People of all ages and backgrounds found moments of relaxation, joy, and inspiration. He realized that music was not bound by education, culture, or circumstance. It was a language that transcended barriers, offering comfort and connection to anyone willing to listen. Through these shared experiences, he noticed a new sense of responsibility and awareness. Music was not just a personal escape. It had the power to influence moods, emotions, and interactions. He became more conscious of when and how he introduced music to others, respecting their preferences while encouraging exploration. This awareness deepened his appreciation for the transformative power of sound, and he saw that his own journey was part of a larger tapestry of human experience. He began to notice subtle shifts in his own perspective as he shared music with others. Teaching and guiding listening sessions taught him patience, empathy, and attentiveness. He learned to observe how different people responded to music, recognizing that each experience was unique and valid. This awareness influenced his relationships outside of music, making him more considerate, compassionate, and present in daily life. Music had become a mirror, reflecting both the beauty and complexity of human emotion. The act of sharing also encouraged him to expand his own knowledge and repertoire. To recommend music thoughtfully, he explored composers and pieces he had not yet encountered, discovering new voices and styles. He learned about lesser-known composers whose works were equally beautiful and emotionally rich. Each discovery added depth to his understanding and allowed him to share a wider range of experiences with others. Music became a living, evolving part of his life, offering endless opportunities for growth and connection. As he continued to host gatherings and listening sessions, he observed the power of collective experience. When several people listened together, the energy of the room shifted. Individuals became more attentive, reactions became more pronounced, and the shared experience created a sense of unity. Even moments of silence felt rich with emotion. He realized that music had the ability to create community, to bring strangers together, and to foster understanding without the need for words. This insight deepened his appreciation for the communal nature of art. He also began experimenting with combining music with other relaxing activities. He would play soft classical pieces during painting sessions, reading hours, or quiet meditation. The music enhanced the experience, creating an immersive environment where he could engage fully and find peace. He noticed that this practice not only enriched the activity, but also helped cultivate a deeper sense of mindfulness. awareness, and presence. Music had become a tool for holistic well-being, influencing both mind and body. Even in challenging times, the practice of sharing music proved valuable. When friends or family were stressed, anxious, or facing difficulties, he would guide them to a piece that could offer solace. He witnessed the calming effect firsthand, observing shoulders relax, faces soften, and breathing slow. These moments reinforced his belief in the healing potential of music and inspired him to continue exploring ways to bring it into the lives of others. He understood that small gestures like sharing a melody or guiding a listening session could have profound emotional impact. He also reflected on the cultural and historical significance of the music he shared. Understanding the context in which pieces were composed deepened the listening experience, adding layers of meaning. Sharing these stories with others enriched their engagement, allowing them to connect with history, emotion, and human creativity. Music became a bridge across time, linking him, his listeners, and to composers in a shared experience of beauty and insight. Through all these experiences, he recognized the growth within himself. Patience, empathy, attentiveness, and emotional awareness had strengthened. He had learned not only to appreciate music, but to use it as a tool for connection, reflection, and transformation. The act of sharing had enhanced his own journey, reinforcing the power of classical music to touch hearts and shape lives. He felt grateful for the opportunity to experience and convey something so timeless and meaningful. By the end of this period, music had become both a personal sanctuary and a shared gift. He understood that its influence extended far beyond personal enjoyment, creating ripples of calm, joy, and understanding in the lives of others. The simple act of sharing a piece played, a melody recommended, a listening session guided had opened new pathways of human connection. He realized that classical music, in all its richness and nuance, was a timeless treasure, capable of transforming not only individual lives, but also the communities and relationships that surround them. He looked forward to continuing this practice, exploring new compositions, and sharing the experience with even more people. Each piece held potential for discovery, reflection, and emotional resonance. Music had become a central thread in his life, weaving together personal growth, emotional depth, and meaningful connections. He understood that this journey was ongoing, and he embraced the endless possibilities of listening, learning, and sharing, one timeless masterpiece at a time. Over time, he realized that classical music was no longer just a part of his daily routine. It had become a lifelong companion. Every morning, he woke with a sense of anticipation for the melodies he would hear. Every evening, he returned home, eager to immerse himself in a piece that could soothe, inspire, or awaken reflection. Music had become a thread that tied together the fragments of his life, offering continuity, comfort, and insight. He understood that this was more than enjoyment. It was a way to live with intention and awareness. He had developed a refined sensitivity to the nuances in music. He noticed how subtle changes in tempo or tone could completely alter the feeling of a piece. A gentle pause could evoke longing, a rising crescendo could create hope, and the interplay of different instruments could tell complex stories without words. This awareness transformed his listening experience into something deeply immersive and almost spiritual. Each note, each phrase, became a doorway to understanding not only the composer's intentions, but also his own emotions and thoughts. Music continued to influence his interactions with others. At work, he remained calm under pressure, listening with attention and responding with empathy. Friends and family often commented on his newfound serenity, noting the patience and presence he brought into conversations. He realized that music had cultivated qualities within him that extended far beyond the moments of listening. It had shaped his character and enhanced his capacity to connect with others meaningfully. Through music, he had discovered a way to nurture his inner life, while positively influencing those around him. He found that classical music also provided a lens with which he could reflect on life's challenges, difficult days at work, personal disappointments, or moments of uncertainty were all tempered by the calm and perspective that music offered. A somber cello piece could help him process sadness, while a lively violin composition could energize him and remind him of joy. Music became a tool for emotional regulation, a guide that allowed him to experience life fully without being overwhelmed. He learned that emotions were not to be suppressed but understood, felt, and transformed through reflection and listening. His home had become a sanctuary where music shaped the atmosphere. Each room had its own character and was often paired with certain types of music to match the intended mood. Mornings were light and uplifting. Afternoons were steady and focused. Evenings reflective and soothing. The sounds of classical music filled the space with a quiet rhythm that contrasted beautifully with the hustle outside. Visitors often remarked on the calm and warmth they felt, and he understood that music had become a shared gift, enhancing the lives of those around him without words. He continued to expand his repertoire, exploring lesser-known composers and rediscovering old favorites with fresh insight. The more he listened, the more he understood the infinite richness of classical music. Each piece held potential for new discovery, new emotion, and new reflection. He began keeping a journal to note his thoughts and feelings, capturing the subtle insights that arose from attentive listening. This practice helped him track his personal growth, understand patterns in his emotional life, and appreciate the depth and breadth of human creativity captured in music. The live music experiences he attended remained particularly transformative. Sitting in concert halls, feeling the vibrations of each instrument, observing the movements of the performers, and sharing silent awe with fellow listeners, he felt a profound sense of connection. He realized that music could bridge time, space, and experience. The same compositions played hundreds of years ago, now performed in modern halls, still had the power to move people deeply. It was a reminder of the enduring beauty of human expression and the universality of emotion. Through all of this, he noticed the ways in which music shaped his perception of the world. He began to find beauty in small, everyday moments: the curve of a tree branch, the quiet flutter of birds, the rhythm of rain on the window. Music had attuned him to patterns, harmony, and subtlety in life, and he discovered joy in observing them. Even mundane tasks became opportunities for reflection, creativity, or calm when approached with the mindfulness cultivated by his listening practice. Sharing music with others continued to be a source of joy and fulfillment. He organized small gatherings, recommended compositions thoughtfully, and guided friends through listening experiences. Each time he observed the emotional impact music had on people, noting the smiles, the tears, and the quiet moments of reflection. These shared experiences reinforced the universal language of music, its ability to transcend age, culture, and personal background. He realized that by sharing music, he was fostering empathy, connection, and awareness in ways that words alone could not achieve. He also explored combining music with other creative or relaxing activities. Painting, journaling, meditation, and quiet walks were enriched by the presence of music. The melodies guided his focus, evoked imagination, and enhanced the sensory experience. He noticed that these combined practices deepened his engagement with the world, providing a sense of harmony between mind, body, and spirit. Music had become a versatile companion, capable of enhancing virtually every aspect of life. He reflected on the lessons music had taught him: patience, mindfulness, empathy, emotional awareness, and resilience had all strengthened through his practice. He had learned to be present, to savor moments, to navigate challenges with calm and clarity. Music had shown him that beauty and meaning could be found even amidst stress and routine, that connection and understanding were always possible, and that the inner life was a place worth nurturing. These lessons extended far beyond listening. They shaped his choices, his relationships, and his approach to life. Even his sense of time had transformed. Music taught him to inhabit the present fully, to notice the unfolding of each moment without rushing. He appreciated pauses, transitions, and subtle changes, understanding that they were as meaningful as the melodies themselves. Life, like music, had rhythms and patterns that could be embraced, observed, and celebrated. This awareness brought a profound sense of peace and satisfaction, allowing him to live more fully, consciously, and gratefully. He also began to think about the broader impact of music. Beyond personal enjoyment, it had the potential to heal, connect, and inspire communities. He considered volunteering more actively, sharing music in schools, libraries, or local centers, helping others discover the calm and reflection he had found. The idea that music could touch lives in a meaningful way motivated him to continue exploring, learning, and sharing, recognizing the power of these timeless masterpieces to foster well-being and human connection. Throughout all of this, he remained humble in his appreciation. He understood that music was not a magic solution to life's challenges, but a companion, a guide, and a source of reflection. It required attention, openness, and willingness to feel deeply. In return, it offered profound insight, emotional resonance, and a sense of connection to something larger than himself. Each piece, each note, was a testament to human creativity, endurance, and the ability to communicate across time. He had come to see life through the lens of music. Daily stresses, uncertainties, and challenges no longer dominated his perception. Instead, he noticed beauty, connection, and emotional richness in every moment. Music had taught him to observe, reflect, and feel with intention. It had become a companion through highs and lows, a guide through uncertainty, and a source of endless fascination and wonder. In every melody, he found a reflection of life's complexity and grace. As he looked forward, he knew that this journey would continue indefinitely. There would always be new pieces to discover, new interpretations to explore, and new emotional depths to experience. He embraced the ongoing nature of the journey, understanding that classical music was a lifelong companion, capable of enriching every stage of life. It had transformed his mornings, his evenings, his relationships, and his sense of self. In the quiet moments, he reflected on how far he had come since that first accidental encounter in a small cafe. What had begun as curiosity had grown into a practice of profound depth and personal transformation. Classical music had become a sanctuary, a teacher, a friend, and a bridge connecting him to others and to the rich history of human creativity. It was a source of calm, joy, reflection, and inspiration, and he knew it would continue to guide him, one timeless masterpiece at a time.